Have you ever met someone who walked into a room, and without saying a single word, everyone noticed? They didn't speak loudly, they didn't demand attention, and yet every head turned. You could feel it. That quiet, grounded energy. That's confidence. Not the kind that shouts, but the kind that whispers, I know who I am. You see, we've been taught wrong. We were told confidence is about speaking more, showing more, doing more. But real confidence is silent. It's not what you show, it's what you know. It's not about proving yourself, it's about being yourself. There's something magnetic about those who are quietly sure of themselves. They don't chase validation. They don't fight for the spotlight. They don't need to convince anyone. Their presence does the talking. Because when you're truly confident, you no longer need to win people. You start drawing them in. The first silent sign of confidence is stillness. Confident people aren't restless. They're not rushing to fill every gap with noise. They can stand still, breathe, observe, and wait. That calm composure makes others trust them instantly. The second silent sign is eye contact, not the intimidating stare, but that warm, grounded gaze that says, I see you. Confident people make others feel seen without saying a word. It's not dominance, it's connection. And then there's listening, real listening. Confident people don't interrupt to prove they're right. They listen to understand. They make space for others. They know their worth isn't reduced by hearing someone else's truth. But here's the thing, confidence isn't something you're born with. It's something you build moment by moment, choice by choice. You build it every time you speak your truth, even when your voice shakes. Every time you stay calm when chaos erupts. Every time you trust yourself when no one else does. Confidence isn't loud, it's consistent. It's the quiet voice that says, I've been here before, I can handle this. So if you've ever felt invisible, remember it's not about becoming louder, it's about becoming clearer. Because when you know who you are, the world can't help but notice. There's a quiet power in people who no longer need to explain themselves. Think about it. When was the last time you met someone who didn't rush to defend their choices, didn't try to justify their dreams, didn't need to prove they belonged? You probably felt something different, didn't you? That's confidence. The kind that doesn't scream, look at me, but calmly says, I'm okay if you don't. The next silent sign of confidence is comfort with silence itself. Most people are terrified of silence. They fill it with small talk, with noise, with distractions. But confident people, they can sit in silence and still feel at peace. Because they're not afraid of what others might think. They're comfortable with their own company. That's rare, and that's magnetic. Another silent sign is humility, but not the kind that puts you down. True humility is knowing your worth so deeply that you don't need to shout it. Confident people let their actions speak louder than their words. They don't brag, they embody. They don't chase recognition, yet recognition follows them anyway. And here's something most people miss: confident people apologize quickly. It's not weakness, it's strength. It takes courage to say, I was wrong, because they don't see mistakes as a threat to their worth. They see them as proof of growth. The insecure blame, the confident learn. Then there's consistency, one of the rarest silent signs. Confident people don't need to change their tone depending on who's in the room. They don't shape-shift for approval. They're the same person when no one's watching as when everyone is. That's what earns trust, authenticity that doesn't fluctuate with applause. And here's the truth: people don't follow those who are loud. They follow those who are real. Because in a world that's constantly shouting for attention, the one who stays calm, clear, and kind becomes unforgettable. Confidence is not about controlling the room. It's about anchoring it. It's being the person whose energy says, you're safe here, you're seen. Just so when you stop trying to impress, you start to inspire. That's what true confidence does. It doesn't chase attention. It attracts respect. Confidence isn't about standing taller than others. It's about standing firmly within yourself. It's not a performance. It's a state of being. And the most confident people in the world don't even realize they're confident. They're just aligned. One of the most overlooked silent signs of confidence is being unshaken by opinions. You see, when you're unsure of yourself, you'll bend to every comment, every judgment, every whisper. But confident people, they listen, they consider, but they don't crumble. Because they've built a foundation on their values, not on others' validation. That's what gives them their calm, a quiet certainty that no matter what others think, they're still enough. And here's the paradox: the moment you stop seeking approval, people start giving it to you. Another silent sign of confidence is the ability to say no without guilt. Most people can't. They're afraid that saying no will make them look selfish or unkind. But confident people know that boundaries are not barriers. They're bridges to self-respect. They understand that every time you say yes to something that drains you, you say no to something that could grow you. Confidence means you no longer apologize for protecting your peace. You no longer explain why you choose differently. You no longer dilute your truth to fit in. Because the goal isn't to please everyone. It's to stay true to yourself. And here's another silent power move: not reacting to provocation. Confident people don't take the bait. They don't rush to defend themselves against every insult, rumor, or misunderstanding. They choose response over reaction, silence over chaos, peace over pride. Because when you know who you are, every attack loses its power. They understand something powerful. You don't need to fight every battle. Some are won simply by not engaging. That's what makes confidence so magnetic. It's not about having all the answers. It's about being grounded enough to ask better questions. Confidence whispers, I'm here, I'm enough, and I don't need to prove it. So when the world tests you, don't raise your voice, raise your standard. The loudest person in the room may be heard, but the calmest one is remembered. Confidence doesn't mean you never feel fear. It means you no longer let fear control your choices. Because confident people understand something most don't. Courage and confidence are not the absence of fear, they're the mastery of it. The next silent sign of confidence is emotional control. Watch someone who's truly confident when life gets hard. They don't panic, they don't explode, they breathe, they pause. They respond because they know reacting emotionally doesn't solve problems, it multiplies them. Their calm under pressure earns instant respect. It's not that they feel less. It's that they lead their emotions instead of being led by them. Another silent sign is gratitude without comparison. Confident people are thankful without needing to measure how much more or less they have than others. They don't envy success. They're inspired by it. They know someone else's win doesn't mean their loss. That quiet appreciation radiates security. Because when you're content, you stop competing. And when you stop competing, you start connecting. Confidence also shows up in how you treat others when no one's watching. Insecure people use kindness as a performance. Confident people use it as a principle. They lift others without needing to be seen doing it. They encourage, they support, and they celebrate because they're not threatened by others shining. And here's something subtle but powerful: confident people admit what they don't know. They don't fake intelligence, they ask. They learn. They stay curious because they're not driven by ego, they're driven by growth. They understand that every "I don't know" opens the door to "now I will." That humility makes them approachable. That honesty makes them trustworthy. Because when you stop pretending to be perfect, people start believing in your authenticity. Confidence isn't a mask, it's the removal of one. It's the quiet decision to show up as yourself, flaws and all, and trust that who you are is enough. So many people chase external symbols of confidence, the car, the title, the image, but they forget real confidence can't be bought, worn, or posted. It's something you carry, even in silence. You don't have to shout your worth. When you truly know it, it echoes, even in the quiet. There's a kind of strength that doesn't show up in your voice, but in your posture, the way you stand, the way you walk, the way you carry your presence. Because confidence isn't always what you say, it's what your energy communicates before you even speak. The next silent sign of confidence is presence. When confident people walk into a room, they're fully there. Not scrolling on their phones, not lost in their heads, not pretending to be busy. They arrive, they make eye contact, they listen with their whole body, and they make others feel like they matter. That's the power of presence. It says, I'm not in a rush to be somewhere else, because right now, this moment is enough. And then there's consistency between words and actions. Confident people don't promise, they follow through. They don't talk about values, they live them. They don't announce what they'll do, they just do it. This kind of reliability builds trust faster than any speech ever could. Because people may forget what you say, but they never forget how consistent you are. Here's another silent sign: not over-explaining. Most people talk themselves into weakness by constantly justifying everything they do. I'm sorry, but I hope you don't mind. I just wanted to. Confident people don't do that. They speak clearly, kindly, and stop. Because they understand that the more you explain, the less people believe. Your words carry weight when they're not drowning in apology. And then comes one of the rarest marks of inner confidence: patience. In a world obsessed with instant results, confident people play the long game. They know that timing is everything. They don't rush outcomes because they trust the process. They're not chasing the next opportunity. They're preparing for it. That stillness is their power. You see, confidence isn't just about believing in yourself, it's about believing in time. It's about trusting that you don't have to grab everything. What's meant for you won't miss you. That quiet patience, that calm knowing, draws people in more than any charisma ever could. Because in a world of noise, those who wait with purpose command the loudest silence. There's something magnetic about people who are deeply at peace with themselves. They don't chase attention, they don't compete for validation, they don't need to outshine anyone. Because they understand something most people don't. Confidence isn't about being better than others. It's about being better within yourself. The next silent sign of confidence is detachment from outcomes. Confident people give their best effort, but they're not crushed by the result. They know success is a process, not a moment. They trust that whatever happens, they'll learn, they'll grow, and they'll adapt. That's what makes them unshakable. They're not controlled by what they can't control. And then there's calm body language. Watch someone confident. Their movements are slow, deliberate, grounded. They don't fidget, they don't rush, they don't try to fill space, because they know their presence already fills it. They don't need to prove energy, they embody it. Another silent sign: not gossiping. Confident people don't waste their breath tearing others down. They don't engage in negativity or rumor because they're too focused on building, not breaking. They understand that talking behind someone's back doesn't elevate you, it exposes you. And when you respect others in their absence, people will respect you in your presence. Confidence also shows in how you handle rejection. When most people hear no, they take it as proof they're not enough. But confident people see no as redirection, not rejection. They don't crumble when doors close. They knock on new ones. They trust that rejection is often just protection in disguise. And here's one of the most profound silent signs: the ability to celebrate others genuinely. Insecure people view success as a competition. Confident people view it as confirmation that good things are possible. They clap for others even when their own chapter isn't shining. Because they know when it's your turn, you'll want others clapping for you too. This kind of energy is irresistible. It's quiet, it's grounded, it's pure. It draws people, and not because it's loud, but because it feels safe. Confidence doesn't demand space, it creates it. And when you carry that kind of energy, people don't just listen to you, they trust you. There's something quietly unstoppable about a person who no longer seeks to prove, only to be. When you reach that point, when your peace matters more than your popularity, you've crossed into real confidence. Another silent sign of confidence is authentic expression. Confident people don't imitate, they originate. They don't mimic trends or force opinions to fit in. They speak from experience, not from expectation. Their words carry power because they come from a place of truth, not performance. They don't try to sound smart, they try to sound real. And that honesty resonates deeper than perfection ever could. You can feel it when someone's words match their soul. It's like their energy and message align, and that's when connection happens. Here's another sign: the ability to be alone without feeling lonely. Confident people don't need constant company to feel complete. They're comfortable in their own thoughts, their own silence, their own space, because they've learned that solitude isn't emptiness, it's alignment. It's where clarity grows. They understand that if you can't enjoy your own presence, you'll always depend on others to fill your emptiness. True confidence thrives in moments of quiet reflection, not constant distraction. Another powerful sign: non-defensiveness. Confident people don't take everything personally. They don't react to criticism like it's an attack. They listen, they evaluate, and if there's truth, they use it to grow. Because they know their value isn't fragile, it's secure. When you know who you are, no comment can shake your foundation. And here's one more that people rarely talk about: accepting compliments with grace. Most people deflect praise. Oh, it's nothing. I just got lucky. Confident people smile and say, thank you. Not because they crave the compliment, but because they honor the acknowledgement. They've learned that humility isn't denying your strengths. It's owning them without arrogance. Confidence is a quiet comfort with who you are, the light and the shadow. It's not needing to be right all the time. It's not needing to be liked all the time. It's just knowing you'll be okay, even if you're not understood. And that energy, that calm certainty, draws people in effortlessly. Because deep down, we all crave the presence of someone who reminds us that it's safe to be ourselves. Confidence is not loud, it's magnetic. It's not measured by how many people notice you, but by how deeply people feel your presence. And one of the most powerful silent signs of confidence is clarity and purpose. Confident people know what they stand for. They have values, priorities, and boundaries that guide every decision they make. They don't waver because the crowd whispers a different direction. They don't compromise their integrity to gain approval. And when someone is clear about who they are, others can sense it immediately. That certainty invites respect, trust, and even admiration, not because it's demanded, but because it's earned. Another silent sign is resilience without boasting. Life throws challenges at everyone, but confident people don't complain. They don't post their struggles for validation. They face adversity with quiet determination. They rise, they learn, they adapt. They recover faster than others expect, not because they are invincible, but because they believe in themselves even when everything feels uncertain. This resilience creates a magnetic energy. It whispers, if they can handle this, they can handle anything. And then there's the art of listening without judgment. Most people listen to reply, to argue, to prove a point. Confident people listen to understand. They give others space to express themselves fully. That makes people feel valued, safe, and seen, and it draws them in effortlessly, because nothing is more attractive than someone who makes you feel like your words matter. Another subtle yet powerful sign is the absence of neediness. Confident people don't chase validation, attention, or approval. They're not desperate to be liked or followed. They engage with others because they genuinely want to, not because they require it. This independence signals inner security. And when someone is secure within themselves, they create a magnetic field that pulls others closer without even trying. And here's a truth few admit: confidence embraces vulnerability. It's not about being unbreakable. It's about being courageous enough to show your cracks, knowing they don't define you. Confident people share their story not to seek pity, but to connect, to inspire, and to empower. Because when you allow yourself to be seen, others feel permission to do the same. Confidence doesn't yell, it whispers. It doesn't demand, it attracts. It doesn't fake strength, it radiates it quietly. When you carry that energy, you don't have to try to draw people in. They come to you naturally, sensing that your presence is safe, grounded, and genuine. There's a subtle magnetism in people who are comfortable in their own skin. It's not about being flashy, loud, or popular. It's about being authentic. And authenticity is one of the rarest, most powerful signs of true confidence. One silent sign of confidence is the ability to admit mistakes without shame. Insecure people hide, rationalize, or blame. Confident people own their errors and move forward. They don't fear judgment. They see mistakes as lessons, as growth opportunities. And this humility is magnetic because it signals self-awareness and maturity. People feel safe around someone who can acknowledge their flaws without fear or defensiveness. Another sign is the quiet ability to lead without control. Confident individuals inspire others not by dominating, but by example. They empower, they encourage, they trust others to step into their own strength. They don't micromanage, they don't manipulate. They understand that leadership is about influence, not authority. And when you lead this way, people naturally gravitate toward you. There's also the power of restraint. Confident people know when to speak and when to stay silent. They don't react impulsively to criticism or conflict. They know some battles aren't worth the energy, and their restraint communicates a quiet power, a signal that they are in control, not the situation. Another subtle, magnetic trait is gratitude without comparison. Confident people celebrate others' successes without envy. They don't measure themselves against someone else's achievements. They're secure enough to cheer, to support, to elevate, knowing that another's win doesn't diminish their own. And when people see that kind of generosity of spirit, they're naturally drawn in. Finally, one of the deepest signs of confidence is trust in life itself. They don't live in constant worry or need for control. They trust that life will unfold, that challenges will teach, and that opportunities will appear for those prepared. They radiate calm certainty, a quiet assurance that says, whatever comes, I am enough. You see, confidence isn't about perfection. It's not about loudness, status, or applause. It's about grounded energy, humility, resilience, and authenticity. It's the quiet force that draws people in, not because they have to follow, but because they want to. Confidence whispers, it doesn't shout. It doesn't demand respect. It earns it. And when you carry it, the world feels safer, calmer, and infinitely more magnetic in your presence. Confidence is not a show, it's not performance. It's a quiet, unshakable presence that radiates from within. It doesn't beg for attention, it doesn't need approval, and it doesn't shrink in the face of judgment. One of the final silent signs of confidence is self-respect. Confident people honor their time, their energy, and their values. They don't compromise what matters to them to please others. They know that saying, yes, when they want to say no isn't kindness, it's surrender. And when you respect yourself, others follow suit. It's magnetic because it signals boundaries, clarity, and inner strength. Another sign is grace under pressure. When challenges arise, confident people don't panic. They don't lash out, they breathe, they analyze, they act. Their calm presence is contagious. People feel safer, steadier, and more capable around them. Because when you handle life without fear, others feel they can too. Confidence also reveals itself in genuine curiosity. Confident people don't pretend to know everything. They ask questions, they listen, and they learn. They're secure enough to admit ignorance, humble enough to seek wisdom, and brave enough to grow. Curiosity without arrogance draws people in because it's engaging, it's inspiring, and it's authentic. Another subtle but powerful sign is joy without dependency. Confident individuals find happiness within themselves. They don't need constant external validation, applause, or recognition to feel fulfilled. Their energy uplifts others naturally, not because they're trying to impress, but because joy radiates from authenticity. And perhaps the most magnetic of all is the ability to inspire quietly. Confident people influence without demanding. They lead without controlling. They teach without preaching. They motivate not through noise, but through example, integrity, and consistency. People don't just admire them. They want to follow them, not because they must, but because they choose to. Now take a moment to reflect all of these signs: stillness, calm, humility, authenticity, resilience, grace, presence. They are silent, they are quiet, they don't shout, they whisper. And yet they draw people in more powerfully than any words, titles, or displays ever could. So stop chasing attention, stop trying to be louder. Build your inner foundation, master your energy, align with your values, own your presence. When you do, you won't need to chase anyone's recognition. You will attract it effortlessly. True confidence is invisible to the untrained eye, but it's undeniable to those who feel it. It's quiet, it's steady, it's magnetic. And when you carry it, the world can't help but be drawn to you.